Welcome to Session 1 of Dyslexia Initiatives in Topeka Public Schools. This is the first of 6 sessions. It is important to watch the 6 sessions in order. I am Nicole Kuhn.
And I am Teresa Cotton. We are glad you are here joining us today. Our learning intentions for today are: we are learning the timeline for full implementation of dyslexia screening and intervention, what training is required for Kansas districts, and the impact such legislation will have on Topeka Public Schools, the Kansas definition of dyslexia, evidence-based characteristics of dyslexia, and the criteria for initial screeners. We will be successful when we have a better understanding of what dyslexia is and is not, can evaluate current curricula and practices in preparation for implementation, and we can support our students with evidence-based structured literacy strategies. We will allow you 2 minutes to read the disclaimer. Please pause the recording. There will be more training sessions after this one, for a total of approximately 6 hours. The training is mandated training by our state and district and will occur on a yearly basis. Today's session is the background information, an overview of what will be expected from educators. The other sessions will cover the screener we will use, structured literacy, incorporating the resources we use, phonics, syllables, and other information.
After parents advocated for dyslexia intervention, a state task force was created in 2018. The task force had 16 members, 1 Senate member, 1 House member, various teachers, a member of the State Board of Education, a professor, a public school administrator, parents of students who were diagnosed as being dyslexic, and others. The state task force released its report in January of 2019. There are some timelines that need to be followed. This one is for the state. In January of 2020, the requirements for screening were ready. Spring of 2020, standardized training for educators began. This was across the entire state. That way, all educators could hear the same message about dyslexia. August of 2020, a state dyslexia handbook was released, and additional state dyslexia resources are posted on KSDE's website on an ongoing basis. For the district, we began our dyslexia professional development in April of 2020. August of 2021, all students will be screened PK through 12. Also in August of 2021, the implementation tiered system of support utilizing structured literacy will begin. Please note, these dates are tentative and are subject to change.
This is the Kansas definition of dyslexia, which is the same as the International Dyslexia Association definition from 2002. We are going to pause for a few minutes to allow you to read the following passage. Have something close by to write down some words that will stand out to you while you are reading the passage. Let's talk about what some of the words may have stood out while reading the passage. Did you notice neurobiological? What does that mean? Neurobiological is both biology-based and brain-based. What about word recognition? It is letter-sound correspondence and sight words with automaticity. Poor spelling? There are 6 syllable types. This will be a key component in one of our future sessions. Decoding abilities, syllables, morphemes, word families. What about phonological component? This means sounds and manipulation of sounds, rhyming, etc. Relation to other cognitive, good memorization skills, large sight word vocabulary, excellent speakers, effective classroom instruction. There are so many keywords that may have caught your eye as you were reading this passage.
The following slide is going to tell us what dyslexia is not. So once again, dyslexia is not the following. It is not a vision or hearing issue. Dyslexia is not seeing words or letters backwards. It is not tied to limited intelligence. Dyslexia is not due to low motivation or limited effort. Dyslexia is not due to poor teaching. It is also not rare. And finally, dyslexia is not a condition that can be outgrown. There are several characteristics of dyslexia. For the pre-readers, the red flags to look for are the following: the lack of an ability to retain alphabetic writing instruction, retain alphabetic letter knowledge or sounds, progress in phonemic awareness instruction, progress in phonics instruction, and connect letters and their sound correspondence. For those who are readers, the characteristics of dyslexia to look for: the lack of an ability to decode words, read accurately and fluently, spell words that have been taught or learned, express thoughts in writing, and understand or comprehend things that they read. The phonological processing red flags include delayed speech, early articulation errors, confusion of similar sounds, such as b, p, f, v, poor rhyming skills, inability to master segmenting, and difficulty identifying initial, medial, and final sounds in words. The orthographic processing characteristics of dyslexia include difficulty copying from the board or book, difficulty learning how to make letter forms, difficulty remembering high-frequency words, confusion of similar-looking letters and words, rules of English, spelling difficult to master. Some students may transpose number sequences and confuse arithmetic signs. Some may have trouble remembering facts. They may be slow to learn new skills. They might rely heavily on memorizing without understanding. Some students may be impulsive. Some may have difficulty planning. Some may use an awkward pencil grip, such as holding it by the fist, the thumb hooked over the fingers. Some students may have trouble learning to tell time, and some may have poor fine motor coordination. The rapid naming red flags include difficulty sustaining attention to the process of naming and sounding of letter symbols, difficulty retrieving verbal labels, difficulty articulating words rapidly. Some may have difficulty decoding single words, reading single words in isolation. Some may be slow to learn the connection between letters and sounds. Some may confuse small words such as at, to, said, and, does, goes. And some may make consistent reading and spelling errors, such as letter reversals, D for B, as in dog for bog, and vice versa. Word reversals, tip for pit. Inversions, M and W, U and N. Transpositions, felt and left. And also substitutions, such as house and home. Please pause the video and take a moment to reflect on the characteristics of dyslexia. What surprised you? What did you learn? Go ahead and pause and then resume when you are finished. Dyslexia intervention components. All students are involved in a district-wide tiered system. All students receive on-grade level instruction with peers. All interventions are offered to all students regardless of label or lack thereof. Evidence of a protocol that describes what interventions should be used with students in each of the tiers need to be present. Interventions should not be left up to chance or to the individual teacher. Intervention groups are fluid. Evidence shows students are changing groups. Evidence also shows the change in grouping is based upon data, not the time of year or at the convenience of adults. There needs to be data showing evidence. A regular evaluation of tiered system plan, or district occurs. A district plan is developed to reflect upon the effectiveness of the tiered system of supports. The district must provide evidence that demonstrates the effectiveness of the tiered system of support. Kansas Education Systems Accreditation. Accountability measures take place in the 2021-2022 school year. This includes screening, training, using the Kansas Education Systems Accreditation ingredients, and also structured literacy. Beginning with the 2020-2021 school year, Systems should begin to address the items above. End of year accountability. Beginning in the 2020-2021 school year, a new end of year accountability reporting measure will appear. Systems will report on the following: kindergarten spring benchmark phoneme segmentation fluency. First grade spring benchmark nonsense word fluency. Second grade spring benchmark oral reading fluency. Systems will not report data for any student above grade 2.
Data collection, universal screeners, and progress monitoring. Screeners should be quick and easy to administer. It should have multiple forms for progress monitoring. It should be reliable and valid. The progress monitoring needs to be reliable. It needs to be valid. Reliability means that no matter who administers the screener, the results should be the same. I'm getting the same information no matter how the test is given. Valid. Valid measurements accurately measure what it's intended to measure. Tests needs to measure what the intention is. Data collection, screening versus identification. Why screen? We will pause here to allow you an opportunity to read the screen, and then you may resume when you are ready. When you go to a doctor's office for an ailment, what is the first thing that happens when they call your name? The nurses take your weight, measure your height, take your temperature, and measure your high blood pressure. These are quick indicators to something that could be happening to you. That is the same way with having a universal screener for potential reading difficulties. Does this mean that students who are identified by the screener are dyslexic and need special education services? We will pause here for you to read the screen. You may resume when you are done. Well, absolutely does not mean that students need special education services, but it does allow us to address reading deficits using evidence-based interventions. Please pause to read the screen and resume when you are ready. We've given the screener to students. Now what? Using a screener is data that is used to make a sound, rational, instructional decision using the GI process. That is why it is important that we cannot use teacher-created instruments as an informal assessment because they are not valid and reliable.
So now that we know a little bit about universal screeners, we're going to talk about what we're going to be using in progress monitoring. General education teachers are involved participants. They possess copies of progress monitoring information. They know skills instructed with their students in Tier 2 and Tier 3 settings. And once again, decisions are always data-based. Decisions are data-based by a collaborative team. The team will review and validate universal screening data, analyze the data, use the data to group students, determine focus of instruction, progress monitor, and also document the interventions that have been used. So what screeners will be used? At the preschool level, it will be MyIGDs. MyIGDs will be administered fall, winter, and spring. At the elementary level, the chosen screener is the Dibbles 8th edition. For kindergarten, letter naming fluency. This is a 1-minute timed assessment. Letter naming fluency assesses the ability to name a letter on a page, both upper and lowercase, in random order. This will be administered to the kindergarten students in the fall, winter, and spring. For students in kindergarten and first grade, there will be the letter word sound fluency. This is a 1-minute timed assessment. It assesses the ability to make letter sounds, make the sounds of 2-letter combinations, and read aloud consonant, vowel, consonant, or CVC words. Kindergarten, letter word sound fluency will be administered fall, winter, and spring. First grade, it will only be administered in the fall. Kindergarten and first grade students will also be administered the phoneme segmentation fluency. This too is a 1-minute timed assessment. Phoneme segmentation fluency assesses the ability to segment 3 phoneme and 4 phoneme words into their individual phonemes, such as slap, slap, kit, it, kick, it. For the kindergarten students, it will be administered winter and spring. For the first grade students, fall, winter, and spring. Kindergarten through second grade students will be administered the nonsense word fluency. It is a 1-minute timed assessment. It assesses the ability to blend 3 phoneme and 4 phoneme words into their individual phonemes. Nonsense words indicate the transference of sound symbol. If they can't decode nonsense words, that means that other words may have been memorized or placed into the orthographic memory. For our kindergarten students, nonsense word fluency will be administered in the spring. First grade will be fall, winter, and spring. And second grade, they will only be administered nonsense word fluency in the fall. First through 5th grade students will be administered the oral reading fluency. It is also a 1-minute timed assessment. And the oral reading fluency assesses whether a student can read connected text accurately and at an appropriate rate. First grade students will be administered the oral reading fluency winter and spring. Second grade through 5th grade will be administered the ORF, or the oral reading fluency, in the fall, winter, and spring. So what about our secondary grades, 6th through 12th? The screening process will look different. Scantron reading will be used for the initial screener to check if students are reading below grade level. The follow-up screening and progress monitoring will use Dibble's 8th edition. So students in 6th through 8th grade, the oral reading fluency. It is the 1-minute timed assessment that assesses whether a student can read connected text accurately and at an appropriate rate. It will be administered during the fall, winter, and spring. There should be discussion on using ORF, or the oral reading fluency, as a pivot for additional diagnostic assessments for grades 6 through 12. There should be a back test to find level of functioning and then decide where student capabilities lie and what is needed for intervention and progress monitoring, comprehension, fluency, expression, phrasing, pace, smoothness, phonics continuum, or phonological awareness hierarchy. Students in 9th through 12th grade, there is a nationally normed comprehension assessment. Once a student takes the assessment and it is discovered that the student is reading below grade level, then an oral reading fluency assessment should be given to the student and intervention should begin. This assesses whether a student can read connected text accurately and at an appropriate rate. For students in 9th through 12th grades during the fall, all students will receive this assessment or screener. During the winter months, the ORF, the oral reading fluency, will be administered as needed, and that's also the same for spring. Students who do not achieve grade level outcomes on a nationally normed reading comprehension assessment will be given the oral reading fluency not meeting the 50th percentile at grade level. And then the students will need to be back tested as needed to find the current level. It is time for us to pause, jot, and reflect one more time. Please pause the video and take a moment to reflect on how the subtest your students will be given based on which grade or subject you will be teaching. You might think about what will the scores tell you and how will you use the scores. If you are support staff, please think about how you will use the scores and the screening information. So go ahead and pause, jot, and reflect. Once you are finished, go ahead and resume the video.
Let us go back and revisit our learning intentions. Did we review the timeline for full implementation of dyslexia screening and intervention? We gave you the training that will be required for our Kansas districts, the definition of dyslexia, evidence-based characteristics of dyslexia, and the criteria for initial screeners. We know that you will be successful because now you have a better understanding of what dyslexia is and is not. You can evaluate current curricula and practices in preparation for implementation and can support our students with evidence-based structured literacy strategies.
Thank you for attending this session. You have one final thing to do before you finish. It is a dyslexia/structured literacy pretest. Not everything was presented during this session, but will be presented at a later session. So you will not know all of the answers, and that is okay. This is the pretest. Your answers will be kept confidential. Your name, school, and ID number, if known, will be shared with Mrs. Young so you can earn your PD points. So once again, thank you for attending this session.